Jack, you're spending a lot of time on that tablet of yours.
Yes.
What exactly are you doing?
Sorry, mate. I'm just looking at my superannuation, getting my financials good so that I am set for later in life. Very important.
Yep, that's true. Fair enough. But have you considered spending just as much time on your physical superannuation as your financial super?
Okay, what's your physical superannuation?
Well, mate, your physical superannuation is the muscle mass and strength that you carry into your later years.
That sounds pretty important to me.
It is very important, mate, because the more muscle mass that you have in your later years, the more resilient you are to injury and illness. And this is a concept that we call physiological reserve. It's very important.
Okay, and what I do know that is if you are inactive from the age of 30 to 80, you can lose up to 50% of your muscle mass, which is pretty significant, mate, especially if you were to say, have an accident.
That's right. Let's say, for example, you have a tumble, you break your hip or your ankle, you're going to end up in hospital and you'll be bedbound for a period of days or even weeks sometimes. And whenever you are bedbound, you're immobile. And what happens is that your muscles deteriorate.
Yes.
And if you haven't got much muscle mass to draw upon, you very quickly lose your independence. So we want to maximize muscle mass for those circumstances where we end up bedbound in hospital. And when it comes time for discharge, if you have more muscle mass, you're much more likely to be sent home rather than sent somewhere where you can get physical assistance, like a nursing home.
That seems fair, mate.
So how can we maximize our physiological reserve?
That's a really good question, mate. And before we start talking about that, I'll just say that anyone of any age and any strength or fitness level can improve their physiological reserve.
Definitely.
Now, the first thing to keep in mind is dietary protein. Protein is the building blocks of all the cells in our body, so we need adequate protein in our daily diet.
The evidence suggests consuming 1.5 grams per kilo of body weight in terms of your protein at a minimum. So if you're 70 kilos, you need to be consuming a minimum of around 100 grams of protein per day.
Okay, now the other really important thing is exercise to keep ourselves resilient, and in particular, strength training or resistance training. Now, the guidelines recommend doing this at least twice a week, trying to focus on all the major muscle groups in the body. And of course, we also recommend cardiovascular or aerobic exercise every other day that you aren't doing your strength training to keep that heart and lungs nice and healthy.
Absolutely. And don't forget that the earlier you start making contributions to your physical superannuation, the better off you're going to be in your later years.